Sit down. Oh my god. Welcome to part 2 of tonight. Man, I just realized those 2 videos would be like a perfect intro in between. I should have done the intro. Maybe there will be an intro. I should do intros. I used to do intros. Intros take a lot of work. I'm lazy. I should make intros again. Like, intros are fun. So my cat decided I should take a break. And I guess I'll take a break. And I'll just do the second video. So I said this would be the only video. God, my hair feels like it's all in my face. So I said I'd do a second video. And, like, I said I wouldn't do a third. But, like, some things have come to light recently, and I kind of want to talk about those, so I'm probably going to make a third video today. But because I promised to read that paper today, I'm going to do that, but I wanted the wake up blog and the paper to be separate from each other, because the paper is like this strong part of, you know, who I am and my identity, so I think it's like really, really important to just get it out into the world. I do want to talk about animal rights at some point, man, because, like, well, since I'm gonna be vlogging later, I'll start my video about what Ren Fair did that really made me angry. Kazuki wants to be in this video. Here you go. I don't know. I am like such a crazy cat lady. Like, seriously, I'm like 2 more cats away from being one. Maybe 1 cat away. I think it's like, what is the rule if you have 3 cats, then you're a crazy cat lady? I think I'm a crazy cat lady now. I don't know. I'm going to do my best to do this video with my cat in my lap. I did not think Kazuki would decide to sit on me during the making of this video, but Kazuki decides to sit on me during, like, random times in the day. So, like, never really know when that's going to take place, honestly. It just happens when he decides. And when he does this, like, really weird thing where he leans against me, it's weird because if I weren't talking right now, he'd be settling. He'd be settling down and he would just take a nap. But because I'm talking, he's a little bit riled up and uncomfortable. So I'm not being the ideal chair or couch for him. That's what's going on right now. In fact, I'll prove this by being quiet for 10 seconds and watch. He will calm down and watch. No longer standing on me. And due to the importance of this video, I'm going to turn off my sound on my phone. Little snippet, I may not be going to Austin tomorrow. There's just, people are having trouble planning. It's not just David, it's like everybody involved. So no decisions have been made. Nobody knows who's driving. Nobody knows who's pooling with who. And it's already close to 3 in the morning. There's been no answer regarding it. I don't know if it's even happening. And this happens a lot with, like, plans that David and I try to make. It all just usually falls to the floor. And I kind of do, like, it didn't happen with Ren Fair. It didn't happen with a couple of other things, but there were some really other things, like, I wanted to do and we never did. I need to, like, put that stuff on the back burner for now, because this was supposed to be about my paper. So without further ado, I'm going to read about my memoir. It's like I was told to write a memoir for my senior seminar. It wasn't like this narcissistic thing that I did. It was actually something that my professor Santos dude, like, requested for me in 2012. So this is right before graduation. It was like a semester before graduation. And so it's been 5 years, almost 6. No, it's been exactly 5 years. Holy crap, I wrote this on December 14th. And it's December 15th. It just became December 15th. So this is actually the 5-year anniversary that I'm going to be reading this. I didn't plan this at all. This was like a paper. It was my final. And I got an A on it. This was the same professor I mentioned in my video yesterday who encouraged me to write and made me feel like my voice mattered. And it's tied in with my system. And I'm going to go ahead and read, but I'm going to stop along the way to make comments. I don't know how long this video is going to be. You can skip through it if you want. I need to like make time marks for people who don't have time to sit through these long videos I'm making so you can know what's going on in them. I know there's people in comment sections who do God's work and just do that anyway. So if you want to do that for me, I'll love you forever. That was darky. Okay, so this is called a Casey Graham memoir. It's my own personal cosmogram. It was based on some other writer who did a cosmogram of his life, and I don't remember who. I could probably find out with some research. But this isn't about him, okay? Or her. It's about me. Man, that sounds so narcissistic. Like, I really do worry sometimes I display like too many narcissistic traits. But let's just go on. This is YouTube, right? It's made to broadcast our lives and our story. Okay, I gotta do it. This is like when I try to sing, like it takes forever to start. So anyway, I'm 8 years old, sitting in a doctor's office with my father. The lights are harsh and bright. We just got back from the waiting room, but we're still waiting for my doctor. I'm bored. I tell my father, why do the doctor's offices have to be so boring? And he looks at me with a disappointed expression, one I've come to recognize over the years. My dad does not find me cute most of the time. I'm his little annoyance. He always gives me this face when he's about to tell me something that will hurt my feelings. He hurts my feelings a lot, and this is something that I just don't understand. Why doesn't my father love me? I'm not even gonna cry like saying that. That has been like the norm. That has been the theme of my life. Sounds very sad, but my dad was always mad at me. I questioned it because, like, what did I ever do to him? He opens his mouth, and sure enough, his words sting like daggers to the throat. Only boring people get bored. He informs me pointedly. Look at me. I'm not bored. I can always find something to do. He persists in this statement by reading an anatomy chart on the wall. His eyes scan over the diagrams and words. I roll my eyes at him. I'm not buying it, but he's telling me the truth. Like, he really is studying that chart pretty hard. That moment when you need water or something and your cat decides you're in bed. Anyway, moving on. So I would never, something I would not really care to do at this point in my life is look at a diagram chart. A diagram anatomy chart. I watch his smug, satisfied face, feeling my disgust and disrespect for him growing. Despite the fact that I'm wondering why my dad is such an asshole, the other fact that he's showing such an interest in this chart makes me feel like the world's dumbest girl. And because of this, I don't speak to him for the rest of the day. After all, we have nothing in common, and I only disappoint him, so I figured a conversation with this man is fruitless. I'm 10 years old. This shifts to a 10-year-old. 10-year-old me stuck in the after-school daycare. My parents have been fighting heavily for the past 2 years now and neglecting their roles as parents. So I'll be at, sorry, he almost fell. He's rolling around my lap. So I'll be at this daycare for a while. I have only one friend in school, and this is a girl who assumes the dominant side of the friendship. I do whatever she says, basically because I so desperately want to fit in with anyone. I haven't discovered individualism just yet. I emulate others. I might be a psychopath in the making. Let's take a minute to thank Joanne for the fact that I am still standing today. I'm sitting on the gym floor with her while we enjoy our milk and graham crackers or whatever snack they decided to provide us. I just said milk and graham crackers because I really don't remember what the snack was. But yeah, when I think back to daycare and stuff, it's usually milk and graham crackers. Like I could eat milk and graham crackers any day, any time of the day. It'll take me back to daycare and make me very happy. Anyway, Joanne was one of my best friends since the first grade, and all this time, she has been the girl I admired from the first day of school. More importantly, she is the girl who still talks to me as I begin to change outwardly. My hair became longer and curlier, and I think I started to gain a little bit of weight. But anyway, I'm not sure what it is about Joanne, but she seems calmer and wiser than I am, smarter than your average 10-year-old, that or I'm just dumber than your average 10-year-old. I'm definitely a late bloomer in all things social. Still feel like this today. I'm 35, but I feel like I'm living like a 20 something. Most people believe I'm a 20 something. I think I act like one, live like one, have the mentality of one. It's like I haven't grown up yet. It's so sad. But Joanne always has a lot of advice for me, and I always find myself listening and hanging on to every word. This girl knows what she's talking about. She knew Portuguese. She introduced me to the Wonder Years and Little Monsters, and together we shared an undying love for Fred Savage. Well, it was undying before that mole in his face grew even bigger. Did he have that removed? Wait, I think I need to not Google right now. I'm writing a paper. See, I'm being systematic. If I had Googled, I think I would have known that mole was just a Austin Powers thing, but moving on. Okay, so during this particular conversation, yes, and I did write, I'm writing a paper, see, I'm being systematic. Like, I need to not Google right now. I actually put that in the paper. I'm such a dork. But he loved it, man, because he said it was like fresh and honest. It was raw. So during this particular conversation, Joanne mentions she never gets bored. I don't even know what particular conversation. I guess we were having one. I think of my dad and how much my dad would be proud of her. God, if I could just go into that whole thing with my cousin who's my age, where my cousin like rode a horse like that, like a natural, and we had both never ridden a horse. This was when I was 10 too. And my dad was so freaking proud of her, but when I did it, my dad didn't seem that proud of me. It was like he couldn't be proud of his daughter to save his damn life, you know? But it's okay to be proud of his niece. I'll always remember that. But so I just think of what it would be like to be her. How much my dad would love me more if I were more organized and sure of myself. I want my dad to be proud of me so badly, which is weird considering I really don't respect him at all at this point. I feel like maybe if I can make him proud, just make him a proud father, he'd be a different person who I can respect. I asked Joanne how she can possibly keep from being bored. Boredom to me seems to be an inevitable aspect of life. Boredom is normal. I was sure cavemen got bored. She tells me, of course, they didn't get bored. Cavemen always had work to do. They had to invent the wheel. They had to hunt their food. They had all these paintings to draw in their caves. They had to make little caveman babies and make clothes, stuff like that. As usual, Joanne knows everything. And she proceeds to tell me her routine, and I latch onto the idea as I listen to her rattling off her list. My parents are not keeping me under a strict routine. However, I do have my chores when I come home. I can't play until my homework's finished. She tells me her ritual from the moment she arrives home. She gets home, completes her homework, watches TV, eats dinner, takes a bath, reads, and goes to bed. It was always in that order every single day. And I can tell she's so proud of it too. Our school and daycare have us on a tight schedule as well. So she doesn't have to worry about it when she's not at home. I become fascinated with this sense of order, and I eventually develop my own routine as a result. I go home, I pull out one of my notebooks. I keep several notebooks all ready to write my great ideas in so I can keep track of them. The notebooks are already kind of strange and sort of coded in this way that only I can understand. I have a trunk full of notebooks that are like a mini scriptorium of events and thoughts that only a 10-year-old can experience. I call this invention the agenda, just like they did at daycare with our routine for the day. I go to bed that night feeling like this sense of order will make me a better person. Oh, I still have coffee. One second, I need a break. Okay, so when I get home, I do my chores. Mom calls them jobs, so job is the first spot. I check the list on the fridge. There's something so satisfying to completing something and crossing it off that list. I like the sound that the pen makes as it crosses through the letters. A clean scrape sound as the ink makes a line through the word. It means accomplishment, and I'm so addicted to that feeling. Cleaning is very important in our house, so there's a lot to accomplish. Getting the house clean takes the first priority, and it always has in our household. Work, then play. Get it done, enjoy the reward. There was no such thing as multitasking in my world during this time. It was always one thing at a time. For a time, this worked for me just fine. When I discovered the ability to multitask, however, it was an entirely new world. I could do my system, and I could get a great deal more accomplished. Okay, I turn calls back on because I might have a work call I might need to take. Yes, at 3 a.m. I make my own hours. Sales job. I'll get into that another day. It's for anxiety people. They work at home. Anyway, as an aside, I will say that in this world of chores, tidying in order, what I have always found surprising is that the time I find to think about other things, like emotional things. I may be living like a robot, but my emotions are intact. I feel things very strongly. In fact, the most important thing to me in the world is love. I still feel this way. Love is probably one of the most disorderly emotions in this entire world, but it's something I've craved all my life. I wonder what love is because in my household it's not really something I saw often. Is it love when my dad gives me an extra blanket when it's cold out? Is it love when my mother cooks my favorite breakfast? Is it love when my sister gives me a hug, albeit reluctantly, when I'm thanking her for a teddy bear she got me for Christmas? Not really sure. Love doesn't appear to be something I can pin down to one thing. Love is a complex emotion, one that lives in my heart as a selfless act. I know that love is an obvious choice. At least to me it is. If you have love, shouldn't everything work itself out naturally? I know that I was a child who loved and that today I'm an adult who loves even after all the bad shit I've gone through. That even through years of abuse, I am still a person capable of loving. I have loved friends. The trouble with loving is that I don't know how not to do it in a passionate way. I love with the patience and innocence of a child. And in my world, there have always been obstacles for loving in this way. This was the only Casey I knew how to be for a long time. The Casey who loves. I've been the Casey who hates, only to find that's not that different from loving. I've been the Casey who doesn't care, and I really have gone through a period where I just didn't care about anyone, not even myself. I've been the Casey who loves only herself. I've tried on all these personas like coats. Some of them got worn for a long time. However, at my core is the Casey who loves infinitely and unconditionally. And I do have an object of my affection. That was Felipe at the time I wrote this paper. Although it doesn't mean that life is easy for me, this will paint the picture of why the relationship kind of went where it went. In fact, this complicates my life a lot and puts the system at risk at times. Sometimes I love so fully, I'm unsure if it's even at a normal capacity. I wonder if anyone could really love me the way I love them. What if they can't? Would it be the end of the world? I suppose it wouldn't because I've gone so long not really knowing what it is to be loved fully. 1 second, sorry. I've gone so long not knowing what it is to be loved fully, unconditionally. I don't really know what it means to be entirely accepted in this world. but I have accepted and forgiven people for so many things. If there's one thing I learned, people will expect a lot of out of you that they won't provide for you themselves. Isn't that sad? Sometimes I think it'd be better just to lie down and die. Oh, okay, okay. Trigger warning for this one. I'm not suicidal. I am just so lazy and tired of the way the world works sometimes that it'd be nice to go to sleep and not wake up sometimes. I mean, I live in a world where love, something that should be the easiest emotion to feel and express, is the most difficult and complex emotion in the entire universe. Why is love hard? I don't understand that. I know what it is to feel love, but I don't know what it is to have that return yet. Or maybe I do, and I'm not just seeing it. I'm just not seeing it. Maybe love is not meant to be seen or known. Maybe it is the mystery feeling. Why is it, though, that all other emotions and feelings are not considered complex? Anger, that one is pretty direct and easy to understand. It was never complicated for me. Once I love, I would go to the ends of the earth for someone. I know what it is to love, but I don't know if I know what it is to be loved in return. I think this might be partly why I developed this system. I think it's a defense mechanism from not being loved. My father didn't really seem to love me, or he did, but it was in this way you would love a prize trophy or a book you can set on a shelf. Look how darling she is. Look how innocent, young, and stupid. I was nice to have around from time to time, but he didn't want to take care of me. He didn't want to support me in my feelings or individuality. I grew up learning about love and hypocrisy going hand in hand. I've struggled for my entire life not to be that way. I've worked so hard to be a good person. What's odd is that people seem to like and respond to me more positively when I'm less positive. Someone once told me that most people like to be treated poorly. I'm still figuring out if this is the case. I'm starting to try and use a proper voice. Somebody referred to it as my actor's voice. I'm just trying to speak properly because I know I have a speech impediment. Laziness, really. Never worked on it. But anyway, the problem with being a good person is that bad things still happen to good people. You can be as good as you want, but things can still crumble. Fate has its way with you. The system has provided me protection from fate. If I didn't have the system, I could be much worse off because instead of being somewhere where something bad could have happened to me, I was doing something with the system. But by the same token, the system has hurt me too. It still does to this day, by the way. The system is not even a real solution. One time I tried to explain this to a girl at work. This is why you don't share personal things with people you aren't very close with. She actually said, "You're smarter than that," because I had a system. My sister does not agree with the system either. I don't know. Maybe she's changed her mind on that. It doesn't affect her anymore. But safety is temporary. However, safety is always temporary, and the system serves as a sort of security blanket throughout my life. It's what I hold on to when I have nothing else. It keeps me from being empty. One of the biggest fears, however, even with the system, I feel so much pain. Still, I feel that it balances me. Oddly, when I'm committing to a project like this one, system goes out the window. I prioritize YouTube and projects and writing. There's no system going on right now. It's shut off. So I know I can function without it, but I'll get more into why I still use it. In all this mumbo jumbo of fizzy thoughts, I have time for play too. And when I was a kid, there were so many ways to play. I made it rain. I watched cartoons. My sister and I danced in the living room, or we wrestled or made up all sorts of games. There were good times in my life, and today there are few and far between, save for maybe one bright spot in my day that I have come to know as something to count on. Even with this going on, I'm constantly going down lists in my head, lists that I've made over the years. I've discovered the process of multitasking and can move down the lists in my head as I'm spending time on something leisurely. That's true. I'm constantly thinking of what I need to be doing. It's exhausting to keep myself on my toes so often, but I don't know what my life would be if I didn't. I see myself falling through cracks, turning into a different person. I see all the good things going away. I see darkness and boredom. I see a fucking anatomy chart. And while anatomy charts are incredibly structured, I don't want to be my dad reading them in doctors' offices to prove how active my mind is. Oddly enough, it's like it's my own anatomy chart. That's an addition. Like, I don't know. I used to call people on the phone to cure boredom. In the 90s, that was a thing. No one talks anymore. They prefer to text and to interact digitally. I used to resist this sort of thing, but now I've succumbed to the inevitable. I worried that this would change things for me socially. And sure enough, it did. I'm isolated without sounds most of the time. I can't hear my friends laugh. I can't hear my friends thinking out loud anymore. This hurts me in some ways, but it's the way the world has become. It's a world I've grown accustomed to. Sometimes I miss the feeling of community. That's why I love my senior seminar so much, because it felt like a group of people communing and growing together. Sometimes I miss being seen. Sometimes I miss seeing myself being cared about. I miss hugs and facial expressions. I miss social engagements the way they're meant to be experienced. My virtual life is highly pleasant, which is unfair. At the time, I was playing Second Life constantly. Real social engagements tend to be more something I try to get out of for fear of falling into the trap that someone might have waiting for me. Usually, this is all in my head, and the trap I'm referring to is mental more than physical. I don't want to talk about things. I don't want to look these people in the eyes. I don't want to talk about myself. I don't want to be a slave to society, and the fact that I even got the cell phone in the first place proves how much society can break down something in your normal day-to-day. Society decides things for us in a lot of ways. I was happy when I had a landline. Cell phones are impersonal anyway. I wish I could move into my virtual life. I wish that were my life. We don't have phones there. Actually, there are phones in Second Life now. All the people I like live there. That is so embarrassing and cringeworthy, man. But like, I took a lot of stock into online friendship back then. I don't regret it. But like where I am today, I don't put that much stock into it anymore. I try, but I'm older and wiser now. Still have friends online though. Don't get me wrong. Just careful about my investment. Wait, why does my face itch every time I'm freaking filming? Anyway, being antisocial doesn't mean you're not a nice person. I work hard to be nice to everyone. It's a struggle some days, to be fair, because there will always come a day where you'll have to fight with someone. I try to fight fairly, but I know I don't always. So my solution is to be less social. Being less social means less fighting in a world where self-centered people struggle to be the dominant winner. I am not dominant in this society. I never needed to be. I prefer equality and fairness. Sometimes it's a struggle to be nice because I don't always do what I should do. For example, if someone I meet in this life wants to be my friend, it's a really hard thing to do. This is still true to this day. For example, if someone I meet in this life wants to be my friend, it takes persistence and patience. It takes being the one who makes the effort. I don't. I'll talk to you for an hour and then I'll walk away from you without taking your number or hoping we hang out again. You can invite me to go out. I'll say yes, but you better have a plan in mind because I won't offer any suggestions as to what we do. This is a mini system, but it's more of a defense mechanism. I have been hurt by a lot of people in my life, and I'm not looking to go through that again. People still get through from time to time, and people still hurt me from time to time. It's just part of life. that is very hard to avoid. So I'm still questioning whether or not my mini system has really helped anything. This has to do with friendship. Like, it was a system that my little defense mechanism for friendship and, smooth friendships didn't really work out because, yeah, perhaps I will work on making new friends. As for my old friends, I barely see them. This is partially because I make no effort, but partially because they don't either. I can't really refer to any of these people as family with the exception of one person, which is Felipe, and I would gladly leave it all behind one day. In my virtual life, I have a lot of people I can call true friends and feel like people there know me better than anyone. Go figure, it's probably because it's easier to open up when you're behind a screen. God, that's so freaking ironic. There are people all over the world who have heard some of my innermost thoughts, and there's only one person who knows almost everything there is to know about me, Felipe. Actually, David is also a person that knows almost everything there is to know. I don't hide anything from that person either. And R is also on the way to, and I think Jennifer, she knows everything. My sister knows everything. My aunt knows everything. So there's a few people now that I can add to that list, thankfully. My dad knows nothing unless he finds my YouTube videos. And he'll probably laugh about it and never discuss it again. If he ever did. So this system doesn't always save me from boredom. Sometimes the cycle of it makes me wary or sad, but it's not a cycle I've ever tried to break. Never want to. Every now and then something will be removed from the order. Y'all are probably like, what the hell is she talking about? I'll get to it. I'm getting to it. This is a 16-page paper, so it might be an hour video. So removed from the order happens so rarely that I really doubt I'll ever be free of it, and I'm not entirely sure that I ever want to be free of it. What might lay ahead could be a world of nothing, a thought I've feared. I know that before the system came about that I wasn't necessarily unhappy. I just got bored a lot, and I followed my sister around doing whatever she did, emulating her. I never really could decide how to spend my time, so I was pretty dull and probably annoying to be around. My system encompasses everything in the world that is important to me. I keep track of all these activities. With this sense of order, I would get nothing done. I would live on my computer. Oh, without this sense of order, I'd be in Second Life all day. That's true. I would not be healthy at all. This order is how I've managed to maintain certain independence. Actually, I don't know if I'm healthy now. You tell me what you think. Comment below. So this order is how I've managed to maintain certain independence. I have learned to parent myself. Yeah, right. It may be dysfunctional, but it's no worse than my parents' parenting skills were by themselves. God bless your soul, Mom. It's like I was already dysfunctional about saying that. Not dysfunctional, defensive. I read the word dysfunctional. I was saying reading a word while thinking a different one. Anyway, I've added so many things to the system, and one of my favorite parts of the system is music. I could always lose myself in rhythmic sound, and I have some singing ability. My sister helped me discover this talent, although I haven't done a lot with it. I can't ever seem to pick up any instruments, but I've always had my voice. Yeah, I have a guitar. It sits in a corner. Music is a big part of my day, where I'm poorly attempting to play guitar. That hasn't happened in a while. Making a playlist, seeking out new music to listen to. I'll probably always be a dabbler in the art of music, and it won't really amount to anything, but it's something I enjoy to make a spot for it. I enjoy enough to make a spot for it. I also like to get lost in the art of words and language. I used to consider myself a poet. I write all my thoughts down in some rhythmic way, and I call it poetry. There's more of a science to actual poetry, which I learned by going to college, but what I wrote wasn't exactly prose. It was something else altogether. I've all but given up on writing poetry. Yeah. However, sometimes in the middle of the night, I find myself writing again, often struck by some emotion and in my sleepy state able to articulate it clearly. Yeah, and then it gets lost somewhere. Anyway. The same thing happens in journal form sometimes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I was going to write a journal. I guess I don't need to if I'm going to be doing this diary. This is so much easier than writing. No hand cramps. Anyway, um, writing has been a big part of my life for so long. I kept all sorts of journals over the years. Some are specifically for poetry, and the others were just daily diaries that I recorded every single feeling and thought. I still pull them out from time to time to experience how I've grown as a person. Sometimes I see myself still in those pages. There are parts of me which haven't changed, but I have grown as a writer. I write fiction too. This was before I finished my novel. A lot of it is based on events in my real or virtual life. I write what I know, but I know a lot of trivial things, things that have been embedded into my memory for years to come. I give myself a spot in my day to write. I still do this, or I try. I get so distracted easily now. Taking time to write is a very important part of my day. Even if nothing is coming to me at the moment, I'll put on a bit of music and try to find inspiration from familiar sounds or words. I had to let the cat in. Oh my god, I feel like I'm a mom. Like, this is what I am, a mom of babies that never grow up. Notice Elfie rarely bothers me. Kazuki is the neediest cat in the world. So anyway, sadness. People got that one down. Happiness isn't even complex, but love, one of the most important emotions in the world, that one is complex. But perhaps it is because it is the most important one that it has to be complicated. Busy night. I kind of still do that. So I'll think back to times in my life and try to draw inspiration and creativity. Every day there's a time in my day where I can choose to write. Photography used to be a minor interest of mine. That has fizzled a bit. This was before Instagram was a thing, I think. And honestly, I don't really use my Instagram anyway. I can't really address what I do as such. I just snap pictures of things here and there. Okay, that's like the whole Instagram crowd. Nothing is really a gain from this except the capture of a memory. I rarely even do this one. Still true. Television time, which I know sounds ridiculous, is one of the oldest spots in the system. The system was simpler when I was a kid: go home, complete chores, do homework, and then I could have television time. Or Nintendo time if it was my sister's day for the TV. And then I would read, eat dinner, wash up, go to bed. It was the same thing every day and a pretty easy routine to remember. It emulated Joanne's to a degree at first, then it expanded into something else altogether. This may sound funny, but I even have to remind myself to take meals at times. When I was a kid, we had scheduled meals, but now that I'm on my own, I really don't. I've actually gotten better with that. I eat when I wake up, 4 hours later, second meal, 5 hours later, third meal, and rarely snack. So I'm better at that. My body is weird and I just I ignore the system for meals now because I was starving myself before. And that was bad. My body is weird in the sense that it won't always tell me when I'm hungry, so I just have to remind myself. I've changed a little bit since I've gotten more routinely in eating. Now I actually know when I'm hungry. I do the same thing with snacks. Food is rarely something I eat plainly for the enjoyment of it. It's for sustenance. I still feel it's for sustenance. Like, I rarely have cravings for stuff, but it happens. Coffee is like the only thing I really ever crave a whole lot. So I've had 2 cups. I don't need more. So I figure since I don't exercise, because I wasn't exercising at the time, I shouldn't indulge too often with food. It's kind of sad now that I put this into words. I have to remind myself to eat dinner or I won't do it. I've often gone to bed on an empty stomach. God, those are weird times. I'm working on eating when my body tells me to, as opposed to putting it in a scheduled format. Man, I got better. I got better at that. Hey, accomplishment that I didn't even know. It's the same thing with showering. It has to be part of a routine now in order for me to do it. I got better with showering regularly. Shower every day now. I think with my weird system, I'm showering every other day. Some people do that. I mean, I personally need to shower every day. Now I shower sometimes 2 times a day, which is bad, but let's not talk about this anymore. There are a few other things that I have to remind myself to do. If I didn't, these things would simply not get done. It can be something responsible, like the activities I just mentioned, Or it could be something as simple as reminding myself to go outside, look at the stars, try to paint a picture, to draw something outside of myself once in a while for lack of becoming too lost inside my own mind. I look at the stars more. I've looked at the stars quite a few times this year, and I'm very proud of it. And I did do a painting, but it's not quite finished, of Pennywise. He doesn't have a nose. Once he has a nose, he will look better. I'll show you Pennywise probably next video, the unfinished Pennywise. um, so I do more. It's weird. I have done some of the things I wanted to do. I didn't realize. Reading is also a very important spot in my day. I don't really read like a normal person either. I'm normally trying to read up to 5 books at once. Because I have one stowed in each room, and now that they've come out with Kindle books, the system has been added to even more. Now I can order up the books on a virtual shelf and read them as I want. In fact, technology has made my life easier in a myriad of ways because I can now make as many lists as I need to. That's still true. My list, okay, so my lists are as follows. You guys get to hear about my to-do list. Oh no. My daily to-do list, my general to-do list, my mental checklist, and my music list. Okay, so I still have a daily to-do list, but it's shorter than it used to be. My general to-do list is the one in my head that cycles. My mental checklist is just before I leave the house. And then my music list, I don't think I have that anymore. I don't even know if I have a music list anymore. I don't remember. I also have a YouTube topics list. So many things on it. So many things to cover. And then I have like, yeah, those are my main lists. Like I've been making my whole thing about YouTube lately. Might be a good thing. I've been feeling creative, so yeah, my main priority is like YouTube now. So fun. Anyway, so I need to read this. Um, I shouldn't like explain this because it's in the paper. Oh, and also at the moment I've got a seasonal checklist in progress. I guess it was like a December winter things to do. I wonder if I explained that. These are the things I need to get done and they take a priority over the system. My general to-do list gets looked at toward the middle of the day. Maybe that wasn't the one in my head. I guess I was. I don't know. This is 5 years ago, so I guess I wasn't talking about the system yet. Okay, so my general to-do list, I kind of remember that. I don't have that anymore, but it was just so I can keep track of things I need to get done in the near future. Okay, I have one of those somewhere. Or I need to make a new one because I have a new phone. I would keep things on my phone. The mental checklist is something I go through before I leave the house. And as I mentioned, I turned that one into a song. Did I mention that in this paper yet? Oh, but I mentioned it in my class because I had told my whole class about it. I thought I was going to be reading it to my class again, which I wasn't. But my teacher knew about this. But anyway, there's no meaning to the song except that it is to help me remember what goes in my bag before I leave the house. It goes like this. Keys, wallet, phone, iPad, lotion, glasses. It's ridiculous, I know. But go ahead and ask me if I've ever forgotten any of those things at home. I never did. I mean, not until the song was created. When the song was created. Not before, not after the song was created. It's okay, anyway. Systems work even if they don't always work. They don't solve every problem. They solve only part of the problem, but the fact that the system helps me at all adds to the reason that I keep it in my life. I will never break down the system to nothing. I will always live by list and this map in my head. However, I feel like the system itself is it's like a song that evolves over the years. It's familiar, but it evolves and changes as I change. There's a natural rhythm in place with my system and my list that is very much like a song. One you might sing your entire life, only words change sometimes in this song. And from day to day, the words may change depending on my mood. When I'm sad, it moves slower. When I'm really sad, it doesn't exist at all. And honestly, that's true. When I get depressed, it doesn't exist. Like there isn't it When I was sad, it didn't exist because I've become consumed with some other focus in my life, usually an unhealthy one. But I spend hours, days, weeks, or months just obsessing over something. That's the only time I'm not in a systematic mode. And oh my God, the obsessions. I think the last one was something about like, what was the last thing I was obsessed with? Tornado storms, or maybe it was serial killers. Maybe it was because I was watching Mindhunter. That show is so cool. What else was I obsessing over? I don't know. Tanya Harding, because that movie came out. The Melanie Martinez and Timothy Heller case. All kinds of stuff, man. Like, that is some inspiration for a book, by the way. That Melanie Martinez and Timothy Heller case. Anyway, um, I know the system helps me more than it hurts me. I don't know what I would be without it. I'd probably end up locked up or something because I simply wouldn't function like a normal human being. The system's normal to me. It's my normal. This song isn't even tuned correctly sometimes. It isn't even a perfect system, although it works perfectly for me. I hear the notes coming out in a dull sound at times, and I don't listen or follow the song well enough. Sometimes the notes are more urgent and hard to ignore. Sometimes I skip around at random on bad days. Lately, I've had more bad days than good, so it's a little all over the place, but still somehow manageable. God, this sounds eerily familiar. At some point, I make time for sleep. The system repeats itself against the next day, again the next day. It's a cycle. The reason I consider this a cosmogram is because every spot in the system has its own place inside my head, and I can actually view it inside my head just like I'm looking at a map. I go from destination to destination to destination. I see them each visually, and it's the big mental checklist that I live my life through. I'm aware that most people do things in a certain order, but I take it to the extreme. For example, on a good day, if I'm in the middle of one spot, I can't do the next thing until that other one is complete. For example, okay, yes, I could probably stop this video to take a work call, but if David were like, hey, let's go to the park, let's go, it's early, we'll watch the sunrise, we're both on graveyard shift, I'd probably say no until I finish editing this video. I'd be like, no, dude, I'm a little busy right now. I'd have to finish this video first. I'm such a monster. Like, screw you, my time is my time. I wouldn't drop it and go. I wouldn't leave before finishing a chapter of a book, or I finishing a show. Like, I wouldn't turn Netflix off. I wouldn't, I don't know. I'm just like that, dude. Like, I get into the focus and I can't ever just drop what I'm doing for someone, and I never do. Unless it's like planned in advance. Like with Felipe, we hang out every Wednesday and Saturday practically. I already know that's gonna happen, so like around 5 or 6, I prepare myself like 2 hours in advance. Yeah, it's some heavy stuff, man. But anyway, it has to be in a very specific order, and I tend to get irritated when the order isn't followed. I've been strict about it for 20 years, and changing things is not easy. 25 now. My sister, who has experienced the height of negligence due to my system, she says it's a religion for me, and I tend to agree because I've followed this system more than I've followed any religion that I've tackled, and I've tackled a lot of them. I was born into Christian faith. I've studied Wicca, Buddhism, and Satanism. None of these lifestyles fit me more than my own system. Lately, I've been more interested in Buddhism, though. I'll talk about that another time. The scripts are all very similar because they teach you just how you should live a life and in what order things should be kept. Religions are very similar to my system. I wouldn't make a religion out of my system, but it's so elaborate and detailed that it could probably be shaped into one. It would be the most boring religion on earth, and there are no gods to worship, but there have been crazier religions out there, and cults, I might add. In my system, I am the god. God, sounds narcissistic. I make the rules. I decide what I'm going to do and when and how to do it. I am my own god. I think religions are all crazy anyway. I respect people who practice whatever they practice and whatever they have faith in. But personally, I find them all ridiculous. I find my system... Sorry, I'm not trying to offend anybody who is religious in any way. This is my personal opinion. I find my system crazy too, but it works for me. I'm happy for the opportunity I got to talk about it. and bring it forward in front of so many people. That small classroom of friends, um, temporary friends, but they know me inside out, so I consider them friends, even if I never see them again. It was a real breakthrough for me, and I wonder what this is, if that was. It also makes the system feel more like a real thing rather than some crazy thought process I developed in my head, which it might still be. I'm not sure. Um, it makes me feel less strange about the way I've lived my life for so long. I've never been able to tell people in the past, not even the closest person to me right now. I still don't think Felipe has heard this paper. If he ever wants to, he can ask. The person I'm mentioning now is an exception to the system in the sense that he comes before it. That's true. He used to come way before. I think he still does if I'm still making time for him Wednesdays and Saturdays. That might make David a little bit unsettled because of his romantic interest in me. But I try to put David before the system, but also David has his times where he's busy too. Like right now, he drove somewhere to go be alone for a little while and hasn't really tried to come see me because he thinks he's bothering me. So I'm working. It's probably good too because if he were here right now, I could be making this video. He doesn't know that's what I'm doing, but I think I put out a vibe like don't want to be bothered or something. I feel so guilty. Like I should drop what I'm doing. I'm so stressed about it. Anyway, after everything I've said about being upset with him and not liking certain behaviors from him, I don't think he's totally to blame because I'm not always available and I'm not always there for him. And I'm still transitioning and waiting for things to change before I commit and da da da. Anyway, let's keep going. When I met Felipe, I felt fortunate enough to meet a person who makes me forget about my system for a while, which I think is a good thing. I think it's good to take a break from it now and again, even if I'm fearful of letting it go entirely. I can just get lost in a conversations with him, and it falls away temporarily. Sometimes it's like that with David too. Like I don't always think about my system with him. So the reason I developed this system was partially due to the fear of being bored. I developed this fear due to my dad's negative reactions about the act of being bored, which I think I covered. I didn't want to be looked at as foolish, boring, or stupid in his eyes. I believe it stemmed from a need to make him proud. Well, I'm older now, and I don't really care about making him proud anymore, but the system stays. Truthfully, I'm not sure my dad ever saw me as any of those things, those negative traits I felt like he carried in his mind and concerning the person I was becoming and the person I am. I know that my father is an insecure person who had to pick on someone younger in order to feel better about the kind of man he is. Children are an easy target, which is exactly why they should never be a target. In fact, a human being should never be a target. Yeah, drama channels. This system has kept me in order, and that is what I need in my life. I said that, and I love iDubbbz, by the way. Like, he's like my favorite YouTuber. So, contradictions. Man, it's so fun to watch. Content cop for the one. Maybe some human beings should be targeted. Anyway, the system provides me with structure and activity. It keeps me awake and self-aware. I'm pretty sure it keeps me alive, just like my cats do. As it is, there's still a lot of chaos in my life. I find it all hard to pin down these tangled ropes of chaos, but if I didn't have the system, I would lose my mind. I also feel that the system served as a way to parent myself. I have no control in my father's disappointment, but I really felt the system would change all that. It didn't. It didn't. And then he left my mom, and the system just kept growing over time. I can't say these things are not related. The less parenting I had in my life, the more I strive for more order and honed my system. And now I don't really know any other way to be an adult other than to read down lists and check stuff off. And the lists just keep growing. It doesn't ever end, but I don't hate it. I'm saying this, and I'm starting to get shoulder tension. One second, I'm going to stretch. I really enjoy this unique way I've chosen to live my life. The system may be insane, but I'm not. I might be. I have this complex order to thank for it. I feel like I'm bullshitting now because this had to be a long paper. Order is order is a very important aspect to me, and I'm grateful for the system. It gives me something to fall back on. As I said before, it helps me exercise order in what would be a very chaotic way of life otherwise. For example, my apartment is a bit untidy at the moment. Yep, still is. But it would be more untidy if I didn't have the system. Yep, I'd fall into disarray and I wouldn't be able to take care of myself or anyone else. Nothing would get done. There would be blankness. I wouldn't know where to begin or what to do for the day. Okay, last page, guys. I wouldn't know where to start. My chores would be neglected, which is a horrifying thought for me. It's overwhelming to think of everything just piling up, the way some houses of hoarders look. That show makes me shudder, by the way. Still does. Cleaning is a big part of the system. In fact, there's a real chance that I'd spend my whole life on the internet doing nothing else if I didn't have the system. Yeah. I'd be taking meals here and there. Sleeping. I'm sorry, I just had a thought of like an otaku, like, person. Spend my life on the internet doing nothing else, sleeping with the computer on, waking up, sitting in front of it with the ramen noodles, immediately turning the computer on in order to stay connected in a world that I'm not really connected in at all. Yeah, I'd go back to that bullshit. Sadly, in this digital age, it's all too easy to live your life in front of a computer screen. More unfortunately, I have done this in the past, but I'm getting a lot better at not doing so. And that's true. Like, I've been out, going out, and more so, like, over the 5 years since this paper was written, I've, like, developed more of a social life. I'm not perfect. I'm not, like, a social butterfly, but I've definitely gone out and done things. I want to do more. But, so I'm very happy. Reading this paper, it makes me feel like I have done more with myself. Like, I have improved in 5 years. I didn't think I did because I was feeling like I'm still stuck in this rut. But reading this paper, I see some things have really improved, and I've made accomplishments. I got a bachelor's degree after this, and I think there's still hope for me. So, man, everyone should write a memoir paper, like a cosmogram of their life, you know, or themselves, and then look back on it in 5 years. Everyone should do this. But anyway, I was saying that there's one last line or two last lines in the paper. I was saying I was getting better at not living in front of a computer. And when I was doing that, that was when the system was put away, because my sister told me I should try living without it for a while because it would be freeing. I'm not blaming her. She wanted me to try a different perspective, and I attempted her suggestion. It wasn't true. It's my system that is freeing to me. And I still believe this. I still believe my system has freed me. It's gotten me out. It's motivates me. It gets me to do the things I need to do. So it's like, you know, it's a really good thing, honestly. I hope that this wasn't too weird for you guys.